months turned over slow and wet. The worst was something we hadn't met. The spring came quick, the growth was lush, but something wrong in every rush. The maple groves began to weep, a secret that the insects keep. The air turned thick, a heavy sweet. The only sound was tiny feet. They called the stuff a honeydew, a sugary coat, sticky and new. It fed the mold, a creeping stain that fell like dark and poisoned rain.
Basil said it's fever joke, the maple sweat in what they grow.
Poison sap, metallic taste, a vital resource laid to waste. The leaves turn yellow, thin and weak, a story that the trees couldn't speak. The black soot choked the light away, bringing an early final day. The billions lost, the future sold for a sweet disaster bought with gold. We worried for the outer farm, we didn't see the inner harm. Black rain falling on the leaves, something sick the forest weeds. The sugar trap, the fungal shroud, crying out to an uncaring crowd. The sap is ruined, the sweetness lies reflected in the sickly skies. The lanternfly has made its bed, and soon the whole grove will be dead. They followed scent, they followed heat, the sickly sweetness of defeat. They covered screens and windows glass, a buzzing, pulsating crimson mass. I went inside to check the store. The threat was waiting by the door. Not just the soot, but something green, a foreign rot I had not seen. Down in the pantry by the fruit, where my whole life still held a root. The peaches softened, turned to wine, a breeding ground, perverse design. I scooped them out, they were so white, too active in the fading light. Maggots of a tropical kind, a parasite for humankind, meiosis. I remember the word, a creeping threat we hadn't heard, thriving on the sugar stain, growing bold through the black rain. If they can live in rotting fruit, they'll find a darker, deeper root. They found the weakness in the wall, waiting to make us fear the fall. Black rain falling on the leaves, something sick the forest weaves. The sugar trap, the fungal shroud, crying out to an uncaring crowd. The sap is ruined, the sweetness lies reflected in the sickly skies. The lanternfly has made its bed, and soon the whole grove will be dead. The air is heavy, thick and slow. The heat won't leave, the poisons grow. The taste of failure in the air, a sticky sweetness of despair. The flies are everywhere we look, a chapter ripped right from a book. The forest groans beneath the weight of this, and never it'll fade.
The Christmas Contagion, a Little Dogpatch novella, by Bill Buckles, digital creator and composer. Episode 2, the honeydew and the maple's fever. 6 months later, early summer. The spring had been unsettlingly lush, but now the first signs of the lanternfly's proliferation were manifesting not as a pest, but as a bizarre weather phenomenon. Little Dogpatch, situated near one of Manitoba's scattered maple groves, was being consumed by a slow, sticky rain. Joe, working his small, isolated garden plot, looked up at the forest canopy, thick with the black, greasy soot he'd only read about in ecological reports. The sooty mold, feeding on the lanternfly's sugary excrement, or honeydew, was turning the forests into a damp, fungal landscape. The maple leaves, vital for the family syrup business that had sustained Dogpatch for generations, were yellowing early, strangled by the creeping black film. The sap was failing, not just flowing less, but tasting faintly metallic and wrong. "It's a fever, Joe," his neighbor, an old Ukrainian logger named Vasil, rasped one afternoon, his eyes red from wiping away the sticky dew. "The trees are sweating poison." Joe himself was starting to worry, less about the trees and more about his own home. The lanternflies were seeking moisture. They covered his screened windows in great, pulsating sheets of white, gray, and crimson. But then a more insidious discovery. On a shelf in his pantry, where he stored his canned peaches and winter preserves, he found a patch of mold. Not the black soot, but a pale, sickly green. Nestled within the mold, something was moving. He put on his thick work gloves and scooped it into a jar. Tiny, white, maggot-like creatures were burrowing into the soft, fermenting fruit, far beyond the standard pantry moths he knew. They weren't from the lanternfly. They were something else, something exotic, likely a tropical scavenger fly, drawn to the sugary honeydew seeping into his wood-framed cabin, and capable of reproducing rapidly in the new, warm microclimate the insects created. He remembered the article, the possibility of meiosis. If they could thrive in rotting peaches, what about fresh food? What about meat? Joe sealed the jar, the tiny white larvae writhing against the glass. The air in Little Dogpatch was warm, sweet, and sticky, and the food in his own kitchen was starting to turn against him. He wondered if this silent biological heat wave was just a prelude to a far worse, more intimate invasion.
Over slow and wet. The worst was something we hadn't met. The spring came quick, the growth was lush, but something wrong in every rush. The maple groves began to weep, a secret that the insects keep. The air turned thick, a heavy sweet. The only sound was tiny feet. They called the stuff a honeydew, a sugary coat, sticky and new. It fed the mold, a creeping stain that fell like dark and poison rain. Vassal said it's fever, Joe. The maple sweat and what they grow. Poison sap, metallic taste, a vital resource laid to waste. The leaves turned yellow, thin and weak, a story that the trees couldn't speak. The black soot choked the light away, bringing an early final day. Yeah, the billions lost, the future sold for a sweet disaster bought with gold. We worried for the outer farm, we didn't see the inner harm. Black rain falling on the leaves, something sick the forest weeds. The sugar trap, the fungal shroud, crying out to an uncaring crowd. The sap is ruined, the sweetness lies reflected in the sickly skies. The lanternfly has made its bed, and soon the whole grove will be dead. Whoa. Whoa. sense of defeat. They covered screens and windows glass, a buzzing pulsated crimson mass. I went inside to check the store. The threat was waiting by the door. Not just the soot, but something green, a foreign rot I had not seen. Down in the pantry by the fruit, where my old lot still held a root. The peach is soft and turned to wine, a breeding ground, perverse design. I scooped them out, they were so white, too active in the fading light. Maggots of a tropical kind, a parasite for humankind. Meiosis, I remember the word, a creeping thread we hadn't heard, thriving on a sugar stain, growing bold through the black rain. If they can live in rotten fruit, they'll find a darker, deeper root. They found the weakness in the war, waiting to make us fear the fall. Black rain falling on the leaves, something sick, the forest weeds, the sugar trap, the fungal shroud, crying out to an uncaring crowd. The sap is ruined, the sweetness lies reflected in the sickly skies. The lantern fly has made its bed, and soon the whole grove will be dead. The air is heavy, thick and slow. The heat won't leave, the poisons grow. The taste of failure in the air, a sticky sweetness of despair. The flies are everywhere we look, a chapter ripped right from a book. The forest groans beneath the weight of this inevitable fate. failure in the air, a sticky sweetness of despair. The flies are everywhere we look, a chapter ripped right from a book. The forest groans beneath the weight of this inevitable fate. The months turned over slow and wet. The worst was something we hadn't met. The spring came quick, the growth was lush, but something wrong in every rush. The maple groves began to weep, a secret that the insects keep. The air turned thick, a heavy sweet. The only sound was tiny feet. They called the stuff a honeydew, a sugary coat, sticky and new. It fed the mold, a creeping stain that fell like dark and poison rain. Vassal said it's fever, Joe, the maples sweat and what they grow. Poison sap, metallic taste, a vital resource laid to waste. The leaves turn yellow, thin and weak, a story that the trees couldn't speak. But black soot choked the light away, bringing an early final day. The billions lost, the future sold for a sweet disaster bought with gold. We worried for the outer farm, we didn't see the inner harm. Black rain falling on the leaves, something sick the forest weaves. The sugar trap, the fungal shroud, crying out to an uncaring crowd. The sap is ruined, the sweetness lies reflected in the sickly skies. The lantern flies made its bed, and soon the whole grove will be dead. They followed scent, they followed heat, the sickly sweetness of defeat. They covered screens and windows glass, a buzzing pulsating crimson mass. I went inside to check the store, the threat was waiting by the door. Not just the soot but something green, a foreign rot I had not seen. Down in the pantry by the fruit, where my old life still held a root. The peaches softened, turned to wine, a breeding ground, perverse design. I scooped them out, they were so white, too active in the fading light. Maggots of a tropical kind, a parasite for humankind. Meiosis, I remembered the word, a creeping threat we hadn't heard. Thriving on the sugar stain, growing bold through the black rain. If they can live in rotten fruit, they'll find a darker, deeper root. They found the weakness in the wall, waiting to make us fear the fall. Black rain falling on the leaves, something sick the forest weaves. The sugar trap, the fungal shroud, crying out to an uncaring crowd. The sap is ruined, the sweetness lies reflected in the sickly skies. The lantern fly has made its bed, and soon the whole grove will be dead. Heavy, thick and slow. The heat won't leave, the poisons grow. The taste of failure in the air, a sticky sweetness of despair. The flies are everywhere we look, a chapter ripped right from a book. The forest groans beneath the weight of this inevitable fate.